Vision Podcast, the ultimate sports history podcast where hindsight is 40/40. On today's episode, we're turning our attention to the Belgium national football team and its much hyped golden generation that ultimately fell short of expectations. We're going to take a look back at the last decade of their exploits at major tournaments and discuss why we think they couldn't get over the hump. Before we do that, let's clear up the definition of golden generation. According to Wikipedia, a golden generation is an exceptionally gifted group of players of similar age whose achievements reach or are expected to reach a level of success beyond that which their team has previously achieved. The term was first being cited by the media for Portugal's success during the FIFA Youth Championships in both 1989 and 1991. Some of the commonly accepted golden generations in soccer are teams like Brazil from 94 to 06 with Ronaldo Fenomeno and Ronaldinho, France from 98 to 06 with Henry and Zidane, and even current France with Mbappe, Griezmann, and other stars. Germany from 06 to 18 with Miroslav Klose, Lucas Podolski, and Mesut Ozil. Spain from 06 to 14 with Cesc Fabregas and Fernando Torres, and there are many other examples as well. I obviously didn't name every star on all of those golden generations because I would just be naming names for a very long time. But these golden generations are typically known for winning at least one major trophy, and in the case of Spain or France, they might win a second and seriously challenge for more than that. When it comes to the Belgium golden generation, we consider 2014 the start of that period, with the last vestiges of that golden generation barely holding on at Euro 2024, where they failed once again to capture a major trophy. We're going to take a look back at each of the major tournaments that Belgium has participated in from 2014 and on. The first time this golden generation burst onto the scene was at that 2014 World Cup in Brazil. It was their first major tournament in 12 years. Despite their youth, they were one of the dark horses to win the World Cup because of the talent they had at their disposal. Most of their best players like Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Vincent Kompany, and Thibaut Courtois were between 20 to 25 years old, and the sky was the limit for this group. They had stars at every level, won their group with 3 wins, beat the United States in extra time in the round of 16, shout out Chris Wondolowski for missing a great chance there, but they lost to eventual second-place finishers Argentina in the quarterfinals. Perhaps they were just too young, and were in fact the third youngest team with an average age of just 26. Coming into Euro 2016 in France, they were one of the best teams in the world and even got the top spot in the FIFA rankings in 2015 for the first time ever. They finished second in their group behind Italy and smashed Hungary 4-0 in the round of 16. In the quarterfinals, they faced one of the surprise teams in the tournament in Wales who won their group but were still massive underdogs coming into the match. Belgium took an early lead, but the Welsh came roaring back to win 3-1 and send the Red Devils packing. They had some built-in excuses as their backline was decimated due to injury, but the whispers about this generation possibly being overrated had begun. In 2018, Belgium had a chance for redemption as they headed to Russia for the World Cup in a group that featured England, Panama, and Tunisia. This was their best chance for silverware as all of their best players were now in the prime ages of 27 to 30 years old. They easily topped the group with 9 goals in 3 games, had a dramatic comeback victory against Japan after going down 2-0 in the round of 16, and defeated Brazil 2-0 in one of the more famous victories of this golden generation. They would go on to lose 1-0 to eventual champions France in the semifinals, but ended things on a high note with a 2-0 victory in the third-place game to secure their best ever finish at the World Cup. It was also their best performance in a major tournament since finishing 4th in 1986, and matched their best ever finish at a major tournament when they finished 3rd in Euro 1972. After their 3rd place finish in 2018, many expected that Belgium would be able to finally reach the mountaintop and secure their first international trophy in Euro 2020. They brought back a very similar squad to the 2018 group and were the top-ranked team in the tournament. They topped their group yet again with 7 goals in 3 games and beat the defending champions Portugal in the round of 16. A familiar foe in Italy edged them out 2-1 in the quarterfinals, and it was yet another disappointing finish to a major tournament for the Red Devils, with their only consolation that they lost to the eventual champions in Italy. This was now the second time since 2014 that they lost in the knockout rounds to the eventual winners of the tournament. In 2021, this may be an afterthought and a new competition, but even in the UEFA Nations League, Belgium fell short and lost to Italy once again in the third place game, but not before choking away a 2-0 lead to France in the semifinals. This is a lesser competition, but it was another example of this golden generation falling short despite high expectations. The 2022 World Cup was the last gasp for this golden generation to win a major trophy, and they had already lost some of the key figures like Marwan Fellaini and Vincent Kompany from their blazing start in the 2014 World Cup and the third place finish in 2018. They weren't one of the favorites anymore, but they still had talent up and down the squad with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Yannick Carrasco leading the way. It was a less heralded squad than we had been used to in recent tournaments, and they responded with a disappointing performance that heralded the end of a once promising era. After a loss to Morocco and a goalless draw to Croatia, which featured a series of comedic misses by Romelu Lukaku, the Belgians were bounced from a major tournament at the group stage for the first time since 1998. It was a brutal end to a generation that had so much potential as the likes of Eden Hazard, Dries Mertens, Toby Alderweireld, and others left the national team shortly after. It may be unfair to include the Euro 2024 team in the quote-unquote golden generation, because by this time the only two starters left from that era were Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku, who are both still very capable players, but not as influential as they once were. Even superstar goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois was eligible for the squad, but had a falling out with the coach and was not part of the Euro 2024 squad. De Bruyne has spent much of this summer contemplating a move to Saudi Arabia to finish out his career, and Lukaku has gone from one of the best striker prospects in history to a guy that simply can't deliver on the biggest stage. They limped through the group stage and were put out of their misery in a sluggish affair against France, who was eliminated in the semifinal to Spain. So why did this happen? Why did this golden generation fail? After their loss to France in Euro 2024, Kevin De Bruyne was asked if this golden generation was a failure, and he responded emotionally, calling it a stupid question and leaving the press conference. He may think it was stupid, but for this to be a true golden generation, then reaching a final would be the minimum requirement for that honor. In recent history, we've seen golden generations from Croatia, England, France, Chile, Argentina, and many more either win a trophy or at least reach a final. So what set Belgium apart? Why did this talented generation fall short of their lofty expectations? Was it tactical naivete, sheer bad luck, or the pressure of being labeled favorites? Some argue that despite individual brilliance, Belgium lacked the cohesion and killer instinct crucial in knockout tournaments. One possible answer is that they didn't have the elite goal scorer that some of these other generations had. It sounds crazy to say this about a guy in Romelu Lukaku who has 85 goals in 119 appearances for Belgium, but we've seen far too many examples of him not being able to deliver in crucial moments for his country or his club. He had a series of comedic misses at the 2022 World Cup, which kept Belgium from advancing to the knockouts, and generally struggled to score in big moments for the Red Devils. Of his 85 goals for Belgium, only 3 came in the knockout rounds of tournaments, and only 1 resulted in a win, which came all the way back in 2014 against the United States. It's definitely not all on the shoulders of Lukaku, as sometimes luck can play a huge factor in how far a team goes in a major tournament. We already discussed how they lost twice to the eventual champions of those tournaments, and in 2014 they lost to finalists Argentina when Lionel Messi was still at the peak of his powers. Perhaps if they had better luck in who they faced, then we would look at this team differently if they had been able to at least make it to a final. The other aspect of luck was injury luck, as they saw players like Vincent Kompany miss major tournaments due to injury, and superstars like Eden Hazard who faced lengthy injury layoffs later in their career when they could have been driving forces in winning a trophy. Either way, this was a great period for Belgian football that saw them produce some of the best and most exciting players in recent football history. Even though they fell short of expectations, they were still in the mix in every tournament, and a third-place finish at a World Cup is still an impressive feat, especially for a nation that doesn't have a history of winning titles. Now, we wait and see when the next golden generation will be for the Red Devils as the last ties to this generation get severed. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to leave us a review and subscribe to wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast. Please make sure to check us out on all the major social media platforms at 4040 Vision Pod, and we appreciate every view, click, and listen. Thank you.